So I'll just show you all once. I mean, you really can do any way that works for you, but I find the easiest way is to fold the napkin in half, fold it in, and fold it over. So is that how you guys do it?
Yeah.
And then fold it like this. So I'm gonna I hate to just like read out of a packet, but I do kind of want to read through some things. But just as a heads up, because this is already in the packet, you know, if you're doing a serviette, for the most part, you know, you guys always a lot of people carry the stuff in your back pocket or over your back of your apron. Don't use that as a serviette. I'm sure you don't, but you know, you want to get a fresh one. And for the most part, keep it in your hand. Like if you are opening, you could hang it over your arm, or you could just set it on the table. That is completely proper if it's nicely folded for you to set it on the edge of the table while you're opening, because really the less skin contact you have with it is truly better, because you might be wiping the lip of the bottle. So, you know, do you want it over your shoulder where it could touch your hair? No. Do you want it like really on your arm? I don't think people are going to be super picky, but you can set it on the edge of the table. And I would always have a serviette, whether you know the bottle drips or not, whether it's a white wine or a red wine, I'd always just have it. It's nice to have. It's nice to tie around the bottle for your own use. So, you know, as you come back to pour the wine, you always just kind of have it there. And the only time I would get a fresh one, if you have a little white wine in you on your first initial go round and you wipe a little, because we're going to have white napkins sooner or later, you guys, not black. White wine won't be all messy. You could just use the same serviette to tie around the bottle. But if you make your initial pass of red wine and it's all completely spotted with red wine, just bring back a fresh one and tie it around the neck. So it's not just like always soaked through red. It just wouldn't look very nice. And for tying it around the bottle, I'm sure again most of you know this, but I just like almost like you're going to tie a knot, and you can just lip it through, or you know, fold it through like this. So almost like if you were going to pull it through.
So you usually do that before you put it on, because I usually take the bottle and then put it around and then I wrap it, but I'm always scared I'm going to pull the bottle off the table and spill it.
I do it before, but and you know, to me, like opening wine, 90% of people. Did I even bring it? 90% of people aren't even paying attention to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's all about confidence and like kind of elegance and grace and not fumbling. Because guess what? If you did something wrong, no one really knows. It's all, and the same with sales of wine and everything. It's just it's a minor amount of bullshitting. But if you start to look nervous, then everyone will turn to you. Otherwise, they're generally having a conversation. Yeah. You know, while you're doing it. So, however you feel comfortable with that, there's really no like true.
Okay. Well, I think it makes more sense to do it the way that you're saying, and tie it ahead of time, because I do get nervous, like that I'm gonna
tuck and it kind of
accidentally
just stays
pull it
under
off.
there. You know, does it have to be like perfectly?
No.
I wouldn't fuss over it. You don't want to be there for longer than you really need to. They don't want you there either.
Okay.
So the serviettes like at Cento, and it might be kind of nice if what we do is, and maybe around the bend, is we just stack a whole bunch as like opening service. And hopefully once we kind of work on our sales and you guys are selling a bit more, you'll have a need for them. I mean, they can stay overnight, but you can just leave it. But we always have like a stack of like 10. So when we sell a bottle, we just grab it from the bar. So that could be something you guys could do too. As I'm kind of going through this, you guys interject anytime if you have a question. No question's dumb. I know you guys haven't had a ton, if any, of wine training, and a lot of that's my fault because I had been around at the other places. But just ask questions. The cool thing is regardless of what you do in life, if you stay in the restaurant business or not, knowing about wine is a good thing, I think, in general. You know, it's impressive for any job you have with friends. It's nice to know. It's just good knowledge. So to me, the service techniques are important, but knowing some of these like cool little fun facts that I'll show you later, it always will come in handy when you're even buying for your own good at a store. You can start to look for certain things that'll clue you into flavors and that sort of thing. So I like this kind of stuff because it just, I think, just helps you in life in general. Okay, so let's just look through this first packet of wine service techniques. To me, when you're the good service is knowing the wine list, being prepared to answer questions, being able to guide them through the menu. And I really think a great introduction, other than kind of pointing out the menu, is pointing out where the beer and cocktails are located and the wine list. And you can come up with your own little monologue, but it's just basically to me saying we've broken up the sections into flavor profiles, and I'd be happy to answer questions within any category or make recommendations for you. And I know maybe you've been a little reluctant to do that because you're not as familiar with how to answer every little question, but once we get a little further, I think it's really nice. And obviously, when you open up that like conversation, people will a lot of times order wine. Sometimes they see it and they're like, ugh, too confusing. But if you offer it up that you can make a few suggestions, that's great. Do you need to know every little wine that's on the list? No. Do you have to will you have to taste every wine? No. I'll walk you through a lot of them, and we'll be able over the course of the summer. I'm hoping like every week we can get one new wine for you guys to be tasting on the list, just open on the weekend. So you'll be able to work through it. But there's a lot of little clue-ins, like I said, and we'll get into maybe in a couple days about where winemaking techniques of certain countries and where the grapes are grown, because they're a crop like anything else. They start to taste a little bit different. That can clue you in where if you say, do you like a richer style or OP, where you can immediately narrow it down for them, even if you haven't tasted the wines. So be ready to answer questions. I say just tell them that you can make some recommendations. Of course, you can always pour samples of glass pours, which if you're really a little bit nervous or you're sure you feel like the table's really finicky, and they're on a budget, to me, letting them taste a couple glass pours, even if they want to buy that a bottle, is a little bit safer. But you don't want to always fall back on that. Take some risks. People love it when they find a wine that they haven't had before. So just be ready to kind of answer questions. I like, on the third paragraph here, I said when assisting a guest in a decision, ask about what wine they've liked in the past. Because what Kyle thinks smells like apples isn't what I'm going to think necessarily smells like apples or you. Or what I deem is sweet isn't what everyone thinks is sweet. So a lot of times if they say, I usually like Sauvignon Blancs, well, that can tell you they like really tart, grapefruity style of wine, which can get you in the right section. And same with those little sections. So generally, if they see a grape varietal in a section, they're probably going to enjoy a good amount of the wines in that section. There are a few sweetness levels that we'll talk about, but does that make sense so far? There's basic wine pairing etiquette of white and red wines when you're answering questions, but you never want to tell someone that they can't order what they want to order, because the important thing is that people drink what they want to drink. Some people like to drink Cabernet with their fish. Well, that's not our job to say that's going to taste bad, because really the best wine pairing is one that you want to drink. If they ask you, what do you think about this? Well, then of course I think you'd say, well, maybe I'd go with the lighter. If you still want red wine, you have to have red wine. Maybe a lighter body would be a better choice. And you can even ask to pour some samples. So if they ask for your opinion, of course, give it to them. Otherwise, I don't like to just say, well, that's a horrible decision. Never make a negative mark on the guest selection. Don't fix their pronunciation, okay? Don't, unless they ask you. Is that how to say it? Most of our wines are pretty easy to pronounce, and I'll go through the ones that might be a little bit trickier. But you don't need to correct, because it just doesn't come off that, it kind of comes off as snooty. Yeah.
How about when you come back and you present it?
I would say it the right way. Yeah, exactly. Like some people with gnocchi, I'm sure you've had it where they say like ganache, but you're not going to now say, here's your ganache. You say gnocchi when you set it down. Oh, well, that they kind of like, oops. Like, so I would say yes, you still should say it right. But I wouldn't like at the timing like, no, that's not how.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually a polite way of like letting people know how to say it, so then next time they know. Yeah.
Or sometimes if they order it, I'll be like, okay, the gnocchi, and I'll just say it, and I'll write it down right. But you don't say it's wrong.
Sure. Okay, so decanting a wine. Do we have decanters here? A couple of them, right? We don't have very many wines that really need to be decanted. You decant wine for essentially two reasons. A really old bottle, or an old bottle that has sediment at the bottom, where you literally want to decant it where you don't pour all the wine out and you leave the inch or 2 inches at the bottom where there would be sediment. That happens at really old bottles of wine, and we don't have old bottles of wine. So that's not our style of restaurant. Most in Madison really can't afford to have like $1 million wine inventory, so it won't happen very often. There are a few unfiltered wines on our list, but generally you could decant them, and I'll tell you which ones are unfiltered. So you could offer to do that. But when you're decanting something with sediment, you have to have like a lot of light, because you have to be able to see through the bottle. So in old school restaurants, it's like a candle or a flashlight, and you're decanting because you need to see when the sediment is about to pour out. So to me, I would much rather, with an unfiltered wine, just let people know this wine's unfiltered. So if you see a little sediment in your glass, that's what it was meant to be that way. You know.
So they buy those expensive bottles of wine and then don't even drink the bottom two.
I know. And there's some customers that will get upset about that. So
Right.
they'll say, I'm
I'll
drinking
drink it.
But that's up to them to decide. But on our list, the only reason why a customer would probably ask you to decant it is one, maybe they just want to feel fancy, is I guess one option. But decanting kind of moves a wine through the aging process. So if it's a really young wine, meaning a big red wine like a Cabernet that was bottled last year, sometimes we call those a little bit tight because they're so wound up or overly tannic that we need to soften it out. And the surface area of a decanter sort of moves that aging process along by oxidizing the wine and softening it up a bit. That also happens in a glass too. So if they want to just have red wine with their meal and they say, we're going to have it, you could just offer to pour it right then and there because it'll open up in a glass too if you poured everyone. Opening up a bottle and just leaving it open like this is not going to do anything for the wine. You know, if they say, let's just open it and we'll let it breathe, well then I would then suggest, well, how about I pour it out for the table? Or you could decant it. So those would be the really two options. And is there a decanter behind the bar?
Yes.
Would you just grab me one? Yep. Because we're not decanting for sediment, you guys, you should pour slowly, but you don't have to be there's no real fancy technique. We're literally just pouring the wine into another vessel. So it's not going to be, it's not anything you have to see. There's not some certain angle. There's not a way how fast or how slow you pour it. You just pour it the way you feel comfortable. So I'll probably, maybe we'll get I have even a couple decanters at my home I can bring. This isn't a ton of surface area. Generally, I'd want one that's a little bit bigger. But I'm not going to decant a wine because it's really not necessary. But you literally, don't let it touch the rim, the edge, but just pour it. Pour it slowly. You don't want to glug it out because it could splash. And then when you're when pouring the wine from a decanter, you do have to use a little bit more caution. Have you guys ever had a boot at the Essen House where it snaps up, the air hits it? So when you're pouring the first bit of the decanter, it'll be really easy to pour. But as you get towards the bottom, you do have to go relatively slow because you don't want to get that little air pocket, which can cause a little bit of a splash. So just as long as you go slow, you're fine. I know it rarely happens here, but I just wanted to at least let you know so you wouldn't freak out and be like, someone needs to decant this for me, because anybody that can pour, if you can pour this, you can pour this, and you can pour this into it. It's really not a big deal. Sometimes if we do get a little bit bigger decanter, if you feel like there's not enough room on the table, you can ask if the couple minds that you hold it right at the edge of the bar or somewhere where it's kind of in their sight, but then